Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today we are talking about the top 5 things that can negatively impact the value of your home here in Maryland. All right, so let's jump right into it. So the first thing on the list here, and this is in no particular order, is going to be number of renters in the neighborhood. Now, when you are looking to purchase a condo, there is actually a lot more red tape when it comes to financing, a lot more things that they look into when it comes to financing, and kind of number of owner-occupied units versus non-owner occupied units. A lot of times there can be a correlation when it comes to delinquency, when it comes to condo dues, when it comes to a percentage of the community that is owner occupied versus not owner occupied. But if you are purchasing a townhome or a single family home, this will never come up when it comes to getting financing. So I would say over years of selling real estate and feedback from clients over the years is the biggest thing that would be, I guess, noticeable when it comes to this is just the overall curb appeal of the neighborhood as a whole, and then homes in general. So, naturally, when you have someone who's renting the home, there may not be as much skin in the game for them to kind of upkeep the property and stay on top of things when it comes to that. So you tend to see when there's a higher ratio of owner-occupied homes within the community, there's maybe a better chance of that community being more upkept when it comes to community grounds, and then when it comes to the individual properties as well. So something to keep in mind, and something that may negatively impact home values depending on what that ratio may look like. All right, number 2 on the list is going to be proximity to major power lines. And I'm not talking about like kind of the typical ones that you see running through any kind of community, but I'm talking about like major, power lines. And this is something that actually came up with my wife and I. We were looking for homes about 18 to 24 months ago. We found this, beautiful home. It checked every box, but there was, main power lines running through kind of the front of the yard, and actually across and through the property. So I, reached out to someone who I know who works on, power lines and things like that. And he told me that he would never live very close to those with his family. And again, that's just one opinion from someone that I trusted. So I would definitely look into that and do your own due diligence when it comes to that. But that is something from some of the reports that I've read that could impact property values anywhere from 15 and up to 20 to 25%. So something to look into, do your own due diligence and see if that's something that would be a concern for you and your family. But that is something that could negatively impact values of your home. Number 3 on the list is proximity to airports. So here in Central Maryland, you're definitely going to hear a lot of planes depending on what part that you're in. So that's not as much of a concern that I would be worried about, because you're going to see a lot of that and hear a lot of that in various parts of Central Maryland. So even in Howard County, I'm in Ellicott City. I mean, we hear a decent amount of planes. It's not going to impact property value from that standpoint. But the closer you get, to a major airport such as BWI, there's going to be maybe parts of towns there. You got BWI in Linthicum, and then you've got it kind of, very close to parts of Glen Burnie and kind of the western part of Glen Burnie, and then maybe parts of Severn and Hanover are pretty close to BWI there. So that was something that I might keep on your radar, just depending on how close you are. There's going to be a lot higher of volume of, planes flying over, and maybe louder noise there. So that's something that I would keep in mind. But just so you know, if you are coming here to the Central Maryland area, there's going to be a lot of parts within Central Maryland that's going to hear, some of that. So I wouldn't let that deter you altogether, because it's hard to get away from. But something to keep in mind depending on how much closer you get to an airport. So you got BWI and Linthicum, which is kind of northern Central Maryland, as you kind of head up towards Baltimore. And then you've got Andrews Base, which is in southern PG County. You've got Naval Academy in Annapolis. So you've got a decent amount of activity happening within Central Maryland. So the closer you get, that's something that I would keep in mind as well. And as always, we really appreciate you watching these videos and checking out the channel. I am a licensed realtor here in the state of Maryland. So if you ever have any questions about moving here to Maryland, buying or selling real estate here in Maryland, we absolutely love helping out in any way possible. So feel free to reach out to the information here on your screen, and we would absolutely love having a conversation about how to best assist you with your real estate goals. All right, number 4 is going to be being on or near a main road. So this is definitely something, as I was doing my research and looking at articles and then thinking about this stuff myself. That's definitely something that makes sense. And that's been my experience as well, working with families, especially ones with young kids. This is definitely a deterrent if we are looking at a home that's on or near a main road. So as you're looking, maybe keep an eye on that. And if you're someone who owns a home that falls under that kind of circumstance, that is something that could negatively impact demand for your home. All right, number 5 on the list is a home not being turnkey or move-in ready. So this is definitely something that, in my experience, is just going to bring less demand for homes. More and more people, as busy as people are these days, it's just something that a lot of people are not willing to do, at least in a major way or a big way, take on just a lot of projects, take on a lot of renovations with the home they are purchasing. The more turnkey, the more move-in ready a home can be, the more demand and the more demand that you are going to have. So something to keep in mind. Also, depending on the severity of the renovations needed, the more likely that home will sit on the market and possibly be in need of going to an investor, and then an investor is going to need to flip, put in renovation to that home. They're going to need some sort of margin so they can flip that property. So the longer a home sits due to overall condition and in need of being rehabbed, the more likely that home's going to need to go to an investor at some sort of discount so they can have the margin in that property to renovate it, flip it, and turn a profit. So that's something that I would keep in mind depending on how much work the property needs. That could definitely impact demand when it comes to selling that home. All right, and last but not least, have a bonus item here for you guys. So I do get a lot of questions from people coming from outside of Maryland if Maryland requires disclosure on if there was a death in the home. So surprisingly, Maryland does not. So that is not something that you're going to find on any disclosures here in Maryland. It's not something that by law a seller has to disclose. We can always ask, but that is just kind of how Maryland works. So I know when I was coming from California 8 to 9 years ago, that was different. In California, they had to disclose that. I believe in New Jersey, they have to. I can't remember New York, but I know I get that question a lot from people coming from kind of the Northeast. So something to be aware of here in Maryland. That's not going to be anything that you find on our disclosures here in Maryland. So maybe looking into alternative resources, maybe things that you can look into to kind of do your own digging when it comes to that, because you're not going to find that anywhere on our disclosures here in Maryland. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you ever have any questions about moving here to Maryland, buying or selling a home here in Maryland, please feel free to reach out anytime, and we'll see you at the next video.